Opening, hook, and teaching promise. If you're lying in bed right now with your mind racing through every decision from your day, you're not broken. You're experiencing a completely normal brain phenomenon called decision fatigue. Your prefrontal cortex is simply overloaded. Tonight, we're going to use some surprisingly boring brain science to gently quiet that mental noise. We'll explore your circadian rhythm, the chemistry of dopamine and serotonin, and the real science behind decision fatigue, all while guiding you into a deeply restorative sleep. Let's begin with the simplest tool you have, your breath. Gentle breathing. Introduction. So let's start by bringing your awareness to your breathing. There's no need to force anything or change it dramatically. Just notice the air moving in and out. The goal here isn't to achieve some perfect state of relaxation. It's simply to give your busy mind one single, simple thing to focus on, besides all those decisions. Now let's try a counting method. Breathe in slowly through your nose and count to 4 in your mind. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then gently exhale through your mouth, counting to 4 again. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're not trying to control the mind, just giving it an anchor. If your thoughts wander back to that unfinished task or tomorrow's worry, that's okay. Just gently guide your attention back to the count. In for 4, out for 4. You might start to feel a slight heaviness in your limbs, a softening in your jaw. That's your body responding to the shift away from a state of high alert. This simple act of focused breathing begins to lower the cognitive load, signaling to your nervous system that it's safe to dial down. Every exhale is a small release of the day's accumulated tension. We're preparing your mind to absorb the information coming next, not in an intense, studying way, but in a gentle, background noise kind of way. The facts we'll explore are meant to be uninteresting enough to let your conscious mind drift off, while the underlying concepts help your brain understand why it's time to power down. Keep breathing with me, in and out. And as you do, we'll gently transition to the first concept, your body's master clock, the circadian rhythm, understanding your body clock. That sense of being tired at a certain time each night isn't just a habit, it's biology. Your body runs on a 24-hour cycle known as your circadian rhythm. Think of it as an internal master schedule that tells every cell in your body when to be active and when to rest. This isn't a vague feeling, it's a precise biological function. The conductor of this entire orchestra is a tiny region in your brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. It's about the size of a grain of rice, but it has a massive job. It receives direct input from specialized cells in your eyes that detect light, even through your closed eyelids. This is how your brain knows if it's day or night, aligning your internal clock with the external world. When those light-sensing cells detect darkness, they signal the suprachiasmatic nucleus to trigger the pineal gland to start producing melatonin. Melatonin is the hormone that makes you feel sleepy. Its production doesn't just switch on like a light bulb. It's a slow, gradual rise that begins in the evening, peaks in the middle of the night, and then falls as morning approaches. This is your body's natural, gentle push towards sleep. The problem is, modern life constantly fights this rhythm. The blue light from your phone screen at night tricks your brain into thinking it's still daytime, suppressing melatonin production. Irregular sleep schedules confuse your internal clock, making it less reliable. This disconnect between your natural rhythm and your artificial environment is a major source of that late-night mental restlessness. This is the mental clutter that keeps you awake. It's not just the big problems. It's the accumulated residue of hundreds of tiny judgments, each one a small thread of cognitive effort that hasn't been fully released. Your brain, in its default mode, tries to tie up these loose ends, replaying and reevaluating long after the decision itself is irrelevant. This is why a quiet, dark room can suddenly feel so loud with thought. So as we continue to breathe slowly, let's transition from the chemistry of sleep pressure to the psychology of your mental load. The adenosine buildup is the physical fatigue. The decision fatigue is the cognitive one. They are two sides of the same exhausted coin. Understanding this mechanism is powerful because it reframes that late-night mental chatter. It's not a personal failing. It's a predictable outcome of how your brain is wired. And that understanding is the first step toward gently quieting it down. Dopamine basics. That exhaustion from decision-making isn't just about a drained battery, it's also about a depleted reward system. And that's where dopamine comes in. Dopamine is often misunderstood as the pleasure chemical, but its real job is more about motivation and anticipation. It's the molecule of pursuit signaling that an effort might be worth the energy. Every time you face a choice, your brain makes a tiny prediction. If I make the right decision, there will be a reward. That prediction triggers a small release of dopamine, giving you the motivational fuel to actually make the choice. This mechanism is called reward prediction error. Your brain is constantly comparing what you expect to happen with what actually happens. When the outcome is better than expected, you get a positive prediction error, a surge of dopamine that reinforces the behavior. When it's worse, dopamine levels drop. This system is brilliant for learning, but taxing when applied to hundreds of daily decisions. Your brain is running countless micro-calculations, trying to predict the best outcome for everything from which grocery line is fastest to how to respond to a difficult message. Now, connect this to decision fatigue. Every choice you make consumes a bit of that motivational dopamine. It's not just the mental energy of weighing options, it's the chemical cost of the anticipation and the potential for prediction error. A day full of decisions, especially uncertain ones, can lead to a kind of dopamine depletion. The well of motivation runs dry. This is why, by evening, even pleasant decisions like what movie to watch can feel like a chore. Your brain's reward system is simply tapped out. Think of it like a mental fuel gauge. In the morning, after a night of restoration, your dopamine baseline is refilled. You have plenty of motivational fuel for the day's journey. But each decision, each minor prediction and evaluation uses up a little bit of that fuel. By the end of the day, the gauge is nearing empty. The brain, seeking to conserve its remaining resources, starts to resist new tasks that require effort and evaluation. It's not laziness, it's a neurochemical reality. So, let's take a micro-reflection moment. As you breathe in and out, bring a gentle, non-judgmental awareness to your own motivation patterns today. Can you sense that gradual decline? The morning energy for tackling a big project, the afternoon push to get through emails, the evening reluctance to plan tomorrow? Simply observe this pattern. There's no need to change it. Just recognizing it as a normal chemical process can remove the self-criticism. Your brain is doing exactly what it's designed to do, managing a precious resource. Let's take a gentle moment to reflect on your own rhythm. Without judgment, just notice. Do you feel a natural dip in energy in the mid-afternoon? That's your circadian rhythm at work. Acknowledging these natural ebbs and flows is the first step in working with your biology instead of fighting against it. The goal here isn't to achieve perfect rhythm tonight. It's simply to understand that the feeling of being wired but tired has a clear scientific explanation. Your body is ready for sleep, but your mind, perhaps influenced by artificial light and the residue of the day's decisions, is still running. This understanding alone can reduce the frustration, allowing you to be kinder to yourself when sleep doesn't come instantly. So as we continue to breathe slowly, in and out, we can acknowledge this powerful internal clock. With each exhale, imagine releasing the need to force sleep. Instead, we're creating the conditions for your body's natural rhythm to take over. The science is on your side. Your body knows what to do. We're just gently getting out of its way. This understanding is a powerful tool for sleep. When you're lying in bed and your mind is racing with thoughts about tomorrow's decisions, it's often your brain anxiously anticipating the further depletion of its motivational reserves. It's trying to solve problems in advance to avoid negative prediction errors. But by understanding that this chatter is rooted in a depleted chemical state, you can respond with compassion instead of frustration. You can acknowledge the feeling without getting caught in its narrative. The best way to refill that tank isn't by worrying, it's by allowing the deep, restorative sleep that naturally resets your neurochemistry. So as we continue, we're building a complete picture. The adenosine builds sleep pressure, the decision fatigue drains executive function, and the dopamine depletion saps motivation. These aren't separate issues. They are interconnected systems explaining why you feel the way you do at night. And knowing this, we can gently guide each system toward its natural state of rest. The science of sleep pressure. That feeling of sleepiness you experience as the day goes on isn't just in your head. It's a physical pressure that builds up in your brain, molecule by molecule. The primary driver of this is a neurotransmitter called adenosine. From the moment you wake up, your brain cells are burning through energy, and adenosine is a byproduct of that metabolic process. It's essentially the chemical record of your brain's energy expenditure. The longer you're awake, the more adenosine accumulates, binding to receptors and gradually slowing down neural activity. This is sleep pressure. You've likely used the world's most popular adenosine blocker without even knowing it: caffeine. Caffeine molecules are shaped similarly to adenosine. They slide into those same receptors, but they don't activate them. They just block the door, preventing the sleep-inducing adenosine from doing its job. This is why coffee makes you feel alert. But it's a temporary fix. Your body keeps producing adenosine, and when the caffeine eventually wears off, you get a crash as all that built-up pressure hits you at once. It's not a withdrawal. It's the bill coming due. This process of adenosine buildup is one half of a two-process model that regulates sleep. The first process is the sleep-wake homeostasis, the direct relationship between how long you've been awake and your drive for sleep. The second process is the circadian rhythm we just discussed, which provides the overall timing. Your urge to sleep is strongest when the sleep pressure from adenosine is high, and your circadian rhythm is in its downward phase for alertness. They work in a delicate dance. And here's where decision fatigue enters the picture. Every single choice you make, from what to wear to a complex work problem, consumes neural energy. This metabolic activity contributes directly to the accumulation of adenosine. A day filled with constant decisions doesn't just feel exhausting, it literally increases the chemical sleep pressure in your brain. Your feeling of being brain dead at the end of a long day has a tangible biological basis. Your brain is quite literally signaling that its energy reserves are depleted and its metabolic waste needs clearing. So let's do a quick breathing check-in. As you breathe in, visualize that breath, bringing a moment of stillness to the neural activity. As you breathe out, imagine a tiny release of that built-up pressure, a gentle letting go of the day's metabolic weight. You're not trying to force sleep. You're simply acknowledging the real physical process that is already underway within you and creating space for it to complete its natural function. This scientific understanding can replace frustration with a sense of patience. Your body is doing exactly what it's designed to do. Serotonin's calming influence. While dopamine is about the drive to pursue, serotonin is more about the feeling of contentment and safety. It's the neurotransmitter that helps regulate mood, appetite, and perhaps most importantly for sleep, a sense of calm. When serotonin levels are optimal, you feel settled, secure, and less reactive to stress. It's the chemical foundation for that feeling of being able to simply be, without the constant need to achieve or decide. A fascinating aspect of serotonin is its gut-brain connection. A significant portion of your body's serotonin is actually produced in your digestive tract. This is one reason why your mood and your gut health are so deeply linked. It also explains why a balanced diet can have such a profound effect on your overall sense of well-being. Your brain isn't operating in a vacuum. It's in constant conversation with the rest of your body. Another key influence on serotonin is sunlight exposure. The morning sun, in particular, helps kickstart serotonin production. This daily pulse of serotonin not only boosts your daytime mood, but also sets the stage for melatonin production later. Serotonin is actually a precursor to melatonin. Your body converts it as darkness falls. A good serotonin day often leads to a better melatonin night. This is the beautiful rhythmic chemistry of your wake-sleep cycle. Decision fatigue. Defined, this feeling of being mentally drained from choices isn't just a metaphor. Psychologists call it ego depletion. The theory suggests that your willpower and cognitive control operate like a limited resource, a mental muscle that can get tired. Every act of self-control, from resisting a cookie to making a strategic decision, draws from this same pool of mental energy. As the day goes on, this resource becomes depleted, making it harder to focus, regulate emotions, and make sound choices. You're not weaker at the end of the day, you're just running on empty. This effect has been observed in some of the most consequential decisions. A famous study analyzed parole board judges. Researchers found that a prisoner's fate could literally depend on what time of day their case was heard. At the start of the day, a prisoner had about a 65% chance of getting parole, but as the judges made decision after decision, that chance plummeted. Right before a meal break, the odds dropped to nearly zero. After the judges ate and rested, the odds shot right back up. The facts of the case hadn't changed. The only thing that changed was the judge's level of decision fatigue. You experience a smaller version of this constantly. Think about the sheer number of micro-decisions in a typical day. What to wear, what to eat for breakfast, which route to take to work, how to phrase an email, what task to do next. Each one seems insignificant, but together they create a constant, low-level drain on your prefrontal cortex. By the evening, your brain's executive center is simply out of gas, leaving you struggling with the simplest choices like what to watch or even what to think about. So how does this relate to decision fatigue? Chronic stress and constant decision-making can deplete serotonin. When you're in a state of high alert, your body prioritizes stress hormones like cortisol, which can interfere with serotonin production and function. A day filled with difficult choices and cognitive load can leave you feeling not just mentally drained, but also emotionally fragile or irritable. That's the serotonin system feeling the strain. Decision fatigue, then, isn't just an exhaustion of willpower or motivation, it's also a depletion of your calm. The internal monologue that won't quiet down at night is often a sign of a brain that's struggling to regain a state of chemical equilibrium. It's searching for the calm that serotonin provides but can't quite access because the systems are still taxed from the day's activities. Let's do a gentle breathing reset. Take a slow breath in, and as you exhale, imagine releasing the chemical tension of the day. You're not trying to force a feeling of calm. You're simply creating a space where your body's natural systems, including serotonin production, can begin to rebalance. Each exhale is a signal of safety, a tiny cue that the time for high alert has passed. Understanding serotonin's role completes a key part of the picture. Your sleep pressure comes from adenosine, your motivational fatigue comes from dopamine depletion, and your emotional restlessness, the feeling of being unsettled, often points to a strained serotonin system. These aren't separate problems. They are interconnected facets of your brain's exhausted state. The good news is that sleep is the ultimate reset button for all three. Deep, restorative sleep replenishes adenosine levels, resets dopamine sensitivity, and supports healthy serotonin function. The goal tonight isn't to fix anything, but to allow that natural restoration process to begin. By quietly learning about these mechanisms, you're giving your conscious mind permission to step aside, trusting that your biology knows exactly how to restore itself. The prefrontal cortex load. All that decision-making and mental effort has a primary home in your brain, the prefrontal cortex. This is your executive function center, the part of your brain right behind your forehead that handles complex thought, planning, and, crucially, making choices. It's the CEO of your mental operations, but it's a CEO with severe limitations. It has a very limited working memory capacity, meaning it can only hold a few pieces of information at a time. Every new decision, every new variable competes for this scarce cognitive real estate. This is why multitasking is a myth. What you're actually doing is rapid task switching, and each switch comes with a cognitive cost. Your prefrontal cortex has to disengage from one set of rules and load a completely new one. This constant context switching is incredibly energy intensive for this part of your brain. A day filled with interruptions, jumping from emails to messages to work tasks, leaves your executive center completely drained by evening. Decision-making itself is one of the highest load activities for the prefrontal cortex. It requires holding multiple options in mind, weighing pros and cons, predicting outcomes, and then inhibiting all the alternatives to commit to one choice. This isn't a passive process, it's a metabolically expensive one. Every choice, no matter how small, is a workout for this specific neural region. This is the physical manifestation of decision fatigue, a tired prefrontal cortex. And when this executive center gets exhausted, it has a direct relationship with another brain network, the default mode network. When your prefrontal cortex is actively engaged in a task, it keeps the default mode network quiet. But when your executive function tires out and its activity dips, the default mode network often becomes hyperactive. This is the network associated with mind-wandering, self-referential thought, and most notably for sleep, ruminating over past and future events. So the cycle is clear. You use your prefrontal cortex all day to make decisions. It gets fatigued. As its control weakens, the default mode network kicks into overdrive, replaying the day's decisions and worrying about tomorrow's. This is not a character flaw. It's a simple neurological handoff from an exhausted executive system to an overactive imagination system. The mental chatter at night is often just the sound of a tired prefrontal cortex clocking out and the default mode network clocking in with no supervision. Understanding this mechanism is profoundly liberating. That racing mind isn't a sign that you need to solve more problems. It's a sign that the part of your brain that solves problems is offline for maintenance. The goal now isn't to engage it further with more thinking. The goal is to gently acknowledge that its work is done for the day and to allow the natural transition into the restorative state where it can recover. This is the shift we'll focus on next, moving from understanding the fatigue to practicing release. Mind-clearing breath sequence. So now that we understand the load on your prefrontal cortex, let's give it a formal break. We're going to shift from learning to releasing, using a simple breath sequence designed to clear mental space. This isn't about forcing relaxation. It's about creating the conditions for it to occur naturally. We'll use an extended exhale technique which directly signals your nervous system to shift into a calmer state. Let's begin by finding a comfortable position. Now we're going to lengthen the exhale. Breathe in gently through your nose to a slow count of 3. 1, 2, 3. And now, exhale through your mouth, even more slowly, to a count of 5 or 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The extended exhale is key. It stimulates the vagus nerve, which is the main highway of your parasympathetic nervous system, your body's rest and digest mode. You're not trying to empty your mind, just giving your body a physiological cue that the workday is over. As you continue this pattern, let's introduce a gentle body scan. Bring your awareness to the top of your head. Notice any sensation there, perhaps a slight pressure, a feeling of warmth or coolness. There's no need to change it. Just observe. Now, on your next exhale, imagine releasing any tension from that area, letting it soften. Slowly move your attention down to your forehead, your eyes, your jaw. Is your jaw clenched, even slightly? Allow it to relax. Let your tongue rest gently on the roof of your mouth. Move down to your shoulders. So many of us carry the weight of our decisions right here. On an exhale, visualize that weight melting away, your shoulders dropping away from your ears. This process is a form of mental decluttering. Think of your mind like a cluttered desk at the end of a busy day. The body scan is like gently clearing off the physical space, making room. The rhythmic breathing is like turning off the bright, demanding overhead light and switching on a softer, ambient lamp. You're not solving the problems on the desk tonight. You're simply tidying up and turning down the lights, creating a peaceful environment for the overnight cleaning crew to do its work. That cleaning crew is your sleep. So continue this slow, mindful scan down through your body, your chest, your stomach, your hands, your legs, all the way down to your toes. With each area, just notice, and on the exhale, release. If your mind wanders back to a thought, that's perfectly normal. Acknowledge the thought, perhaps even label it gently. Ah, that's a planning thought. And then guide your attention back to the physical sensation of your breath and the next part of your body. This act of noticing and returning is the practice. It's the mental equivalent of lifting weights. You're strengthening your ability to disengage from the chatter. We're preparing the ground for the next concept, which explains exactly what that overnight cleaning crew does: synaptic pruning. During sleep. That mental decluttering we're practicing has a powerful parallel in the deepest stages of sleep. While you're drifting off, your brain is engaged in a vital process called synaptic pruning. To understand this, you first need to know what a synapse is. It's the tiny gap between your brain cells, the connection point where neurons communicate. Every thought you have, every skill you practice, every decision you make strengthens certain synaptic connections. Your brain is constantly forming these pathways. During the day, as you learn and experience new things, your brain is busy building connections. It's like a garden growing wildly. But not every new connection is useful in the long term. Some are temporary, related to a fleeting thought or an insignificant choice. If your brain kept every single connection, it would become inefficient, overloaded with pathways for information that no longer serves you. It would be cognitively expensive, like a computer with a hard drive full of temporary files, slowing down its processing speed. This is where sleep, particularly deep, slow-wave sleep, comes in. Think of it as the brain's essential housekeeping function. During deep sleep, your brain reviews the connections formed throughout the day. The connections that were strongly reinforced through important learning or repeated use are tagged for strengthening. But the weaker, more transient connections, the neural noise from all those micro-decisions, the fleeting worries, the irrelevant details, are gently pruned away. This is synaptic pruning. It's not a loss, it's an optimization. This process is crucial for learning and memory consolidation. By weakening the irrelevant connections, the important ones stand out more clearly, making your thinking sharper and more efficient. It's what allows you to remember the core of a presentation but forget the color of the pen you used to take notes. This nightly reset is why you can often wake up with a clearer perspective on a problem that seemed insurmountable the night before. Your brain has literally cleared out the cognitive clutter, making space for the signal to emerge from the noise. Now connect this directly to decision fatigue. All day long, your prefrontal cortex has been creating neural pathways for every choice you've considered. Which email to answer first? What to say in that meeting? What to make for dinner? Each of these creates synaptic activity. By evening, your brain is filled with the residue of these countless decision pathways. They represent open loops, unfinished business, and cognitive clutter. This clutter occupies valuable neural space and contributes to that feeling of mental static. The beautiful truth is that sleep is designed specifically to handle this. The synaptic pruning that occurs overnight is nature's way of clearing out the decision residue. It's the system that says, that choice about what to have for lunch yesterday, it's done. We can let that neural pathway weaken now. The important learning from your project today will strengthen that. This is the biological basis for sleeping on it. You're not just passively resting, you're actively allowing your brain to organize, prioritize, and clear out the day's mental debris. So as you lie here practicing this gentle breath and body scan, You can rest in the knowledge that a far more powerful process is waiting to take over. You don't need to clear your mind through force of will. You simply need to create the conditions for your brain to execute its own sophisticated clearing protocol. The feeling of mental freshness you sometimes experience in the morning isn't a miracle. It's the direct result of this nightly pruning. Your brain has literally been weeded and tidied. The goal tonight is to gently surrender to that process, trusting that your biology has a flawless system for turning today's fatigue into tomorrow's clarity. Sleep architecture basics. The process of clearing out that mental clutter doesn't happen all at once. It unfolds in a precise cyclical pattern throughout the night known as sleep architecture. Your sleep is not one monolithic state, but a series of distinct stages that you cycle through every 90 minutes or so. These stages are broadly categorized into NREM sleep, which has 3 stages itself, and REM sleep. Each cycle, and each stage within it, plays a unique role in restoring your exhausted brain and body from the day's decision fatigue. The first part of the cycle is NREM sleep, and its deepest stage, slow-wave sleep, is arguably the most critical for physical and mental restoration. This is when your brain waves slow down into large, synchronized delta waves. It's a state of deep, dreamless sleep where it's hardest to be awakened. This is the prime time for that synaptic pruning we just discussed. It's also when your body focuses on physical repair, releasing growth hormone to mend tissues and strengthen your immune system. For your tired prefrontal cortex, this is a total system reboot, a deep cleanse of the metabolic waste that is built up. Following deep sleep, you transition into REM sleep, characterized by rapid eye movements and, of course, dreaming. Your brain waves during REM look almost identical to when you're awake. This is when your brain is highly active, processing emotions and consolidating memories. It's like a late-night filing session where your brain takes the important memories from the temporary holding space of the hippocampus and integrates them into the long-term storage of the cortex, connecting them to your existing knowledge. It's theorized that this is when your brain works through the emotional residue of the day's events and decisions, often in the symbolic language of dreams. The architecture of the night is not static. The first half of your sleep is dominated by deep, restorative slow-wave sleep as your brain tackles its most pressing cleanup duties. The second half of the night contains more REM sleep as the focus shifts to memory and emotional processing. This elegant structure ensures that both the cognitive and emotional fallout from your day, the decision fatigue and the stress, are systematically addressed. Now, how does fatigue itself affect this delicate architecture? High levels of exhaustion and decision residue can actually disrupt it. When you're overly stressed or your mind is racing, you may struggle to fall asleep, shortening the first sleep cycle. Or you might experience more frequent, lighter micro-awakenings that pull you out of the deep, restorative stages. You might spend the night hovering in the lighter stages of sleep, never quite dipping into the deep, slow wave or rich REM sleep you need. You can sleep for 8 hours but wake up feeling unrefreshed because the quality of the architecture was compromised. The housekeeping crew was interrupted all night. This is why the mental clearing we're practicing is so vital. By gently quieting the conscious mind, we're not just making it easier to fall asleep. We're paving the way for optimal sleep architecture. We're creating the conditions for your brain to smoothly transition through its natural restorative cycles, ensuring you get the deep cleansing of slow-wave sleep and the emotional processing of REM. You're setting the stage for your brain to do its best work. So as we continue to breathe and release, know that you're not just waiting for sleep. You're actively participating in building a foundation for a night of truly transformative restoration. Evening decision audit. Now let's apply this understanding of mental architecture to the specific thoughts that might be keeping you awake. We're going to conduct a gentle evening decision audit. This isn't about solving problems or making lists for tomorrow. It's about acknowledging the mental inventory that's currently active and consciously giving your brain permission to file it away for the night. The goal is to close open loops, reducing the cognitive load on your prefrontal cortex so it can truly power down. Think of all the decisions you made today, big and small. They're like browser tabs left open in your mind, each one consuming a little bit of background processing power. The audit is a simple process of noticing these tabs. You don't need to write anything down unless you feel a strong urge to. This can be a purely mental exercise. Start by gently scanning your consciousness. What thoughts are present? You might notice a worry about a work project, a reminder to call someone, or a minor regret from the day. Simply observe them without judgment. Next, begin to categorize these thoughts. Are they about a decision that is truly urgent and must be dealt with tonight? The answer is almost always no. Most are about decisions that can wait until morning. Are they about a decision that is already made and done? If so, acknowledge that the choice is in the past. The outcome is now out of your hands until tomorrow. The final category is the most common: decisions about hypothetical future scenarios. These are pure mental simulations, and they are the most draining because they have no resolution. They are open loops with no clear end. The core of this audit is the act of letting go. For each thought you identify, especially those in the can wait or hypothetical categories, mentally label it. You might say to yourself, "That's a tomorrow problem," or "That decision is made," or "That's just a worry, not a task." Then, on your exhale, visualize placing that thought in a mental filing cabinet, or imagine closing that browser tab. You are not deleting the information, you are simply acknowledging it and consciously deciding that its processing time is over for today. You are telling your executive brain, "I see this. It's noted. We will resume when we are rested and replenished." This practice directly counters the Zeigarnik effect, the psychological tendency for unfinished tasks to occupy our minds more than completed ones. By mentally acknowledging and filing these decision thoughts, you provide a sense of closure, even if the task itself is not complete. You are signaling to your brain that the loop can be temporarily closed, freeing up the cognitive resources it was consuming. This is how you begin to quiet the default mode network's restless chatter. You're giving it a structured task, filing, instead of letting it run wild. So let's breathe through this release. Take a slow breath in, and as you exhale, bring one of today's lingering decisions to mind. Acknowledge it. Then visualize releasing it, setting it down, or filing it away. Feel the slight lessening of mental weight. Your brain might try to pick it up again immediately. That's its habitual pattern. If it does, just gently guide it back, like we did with the breath. This isn't a one-and-done process, but a gentle, repetitive practice of disengaging. You are training your mind to recognize that night is for restoration, not rumination. By doing this audit, you are preparing the way for the deep, cleansing sleep your brain is waiting to provide. Brown noise integration. To further support this process of mental release, we're going to integrate a simple tool that helps mask the internal and external noise. Brown noise. You might be familiar with white noise, which contains all audible frequencies at equal power, creating a static-like hiss. Brown noise is different. It emphasizes lower frequencies, producing a deeper rumbling sound like a steady waterfall, a strong wind, or the low hum of an airplane cabin. This lower pitch is often more effective at promoting relaxation and focus because it's less harsh to the human ear. The primary benefit of brown noise for sleep is its ability to mask distracting sounds. A sudden car horn, a creak in the house, or a partner's movement can instantly pull your brain back into a state of alertness, reactivating the prefrontal cortex you're trying to calm. A consistent, low-frequency sound like brown noise acts as an acoustic blanket, smoothing over these auditory spikes. It creates a consistent sonic environment that tells your brain the external world is stable and non-threatening, allowing you to turn your attention inward more fully. But its power goes beyond just blocking out sound. The steady, predictable nature of brown noise also helps mask your own internal distractions. The mental chatter we've been auditing, the constant flow of thought can itself be a form of internal noise. The monotonous, featureless quality of brown noise gives your restless mind a neutral anchor point. Instead of latching onto a worrying thought, your brain can latch onto the consistent rumble. It gives your auditory cortex something simple and non-stimulating to process, which can help quiet the more complex narrative processing parts of your brain. It's a gentle way to reduce the overall cognitive load. As you listen to this narration, you might already be noticing the subtle presence of brown noise in the background. Bring your awareness to it now. Don't analyze it or try to hear patterns in it. Just notice the physical sensation of the sound vibrations. Can you feel it as a gentle, low vibration in your body, perhaps in your chest or the back of your head? Allow the sound to wash over you, not as something to focus on intently, but as a grounding presence in the room. It's a constant, like the force of gravity, something you can surrender to. This integration deepens your relaxation state by engaging another sense in the process of letting go. Your breath is calming your nervous system. Your body scan is releasing physical tension. Your decision audit is clearing cognitive space. And now, the brown noise is creating a protective, monotonous sonic environment that discourages new distractions from taking root. All these elements work together to signal a profound shift from doing to being, from deciding to resting. You are systematically dismantling the conditions that foster decision fatigue and building the conditions that invite deep, restorative sleep. As the sound continues, feel yourself sinking deeper into this state of allowance, preparing for the next insights into the mind's fascinating mechanics, the Zeigarnik effect. Revisited, that mental filing we just practiced directly addresses a powerful psychological principle known as the Zeigarnik effect. This is the tendency for your brain to cling to unfinished or interrupted tasks more than completed ones. It's named after the psychologist who observed that waiters had perfect recall of unpaid orders, but once the bill was settled, the details vanished from their memory. An unfinished task creates a state of psychological tension, an open loop that your mind feels compelled to close. It's an efficient system for ensuring important things don't get dropped during the day, but it becomes a significant obstacle to sleep at night. Every decision you made today, especially the ones that felt inconclusive or unresolved, represents one of these open loops. Your brain's natural inclination is to keep these tasks active in your working memory until they reach some form of resolution. When you try to sleep, your prefrontal cortex may be offline, but this more primitive completion-seeking mechanism is still running in the background. It's what causes you to suddenly remember an email you forgot to send or a question you meant to ask, just as you're drifting off. Your mind is doing a final sweep, trying to tie up loose ends. This is why the simple act of writing things down is so effective for sleep. The physical act of recording a task or a worry provides a powerful signal of closure to the brain. It externalizes the memory, moving it from the vulnerable, limited space of your working memory to a stable, external source. You're essentially telling your brain, it's safe to let this go. The information is captured and won't be lost. This is the neurological basis for the classic advice of keeping a notepad by your bed. You're not solving the problem. You're simply closing the loop, relieving the psychological tension of the Zeigarnik effect. But writing isn't the only way to achieve closure. The mental filing we practiced is a form of cognitive closure. By consciously acknowledging a thought and mentally labeling it as filed for tomorrow, you are performing a similar function. You are providing a deliberate endpoint to the loop. The key is the act of conscious acknowledgement followed by a deliberate release. Without that release, the loop remains open, and your mind will continue to circle back to it, trying to find a resolution where none is needed at that moment. So let's apply this right now. Bring to mind one specific small concern that feels unresolved from your day. It doesn't have to be important. It could be as simple as a reminder to buy milk. Acknowledge the thought. Now, on your next exhale, visualize placing that specific concern into a mental box and closing the lid. You might even use a simple phrase like, "That's taken care of for now." Feel the subtle shift as you grant your brain permission to release its grip on that particular thread. This isn't about suppressing the thought, but about formally concluding its active processing for the evening. Understanding the Zeigarnik effect transforms your relationship with your nighttime thoughts. That nagging feeling isn't a sign that you're irresponsible or forgetful. It's a sign that your brain's efficient task management system is working exactly as designed. The challenge is that it doesn't have an automatic off switch for bedtime. You have to provide that switch manually through practices like the decision audit and this conscious closure. By doing so, you're not fighting your brain's nature. You're collaborating with it, guiding it from a state of productive daytime vigilance to a state of restorative nighttime peace. Each loop you close is a small victory for sleep, quieting the internal noise one decision at a time. Cognitive load theory. All that mental filing and loop closing is about managing a fundamental concept in learning and performance called cognitive load. This theory breaks down the mental effort required for any task into three types. Intrinsic load is the inherent difficulty of the material itself, like learning a new language. Extraneous load is the unnecessary mental effort caused by poor presentation or distractions, like trying to learn that language in a noisy, chaotic room. And germane load is the productive effort of actually building new mental schemas and understanding. For optimal learning, you want to minimize extraneous load to free up capacity for handling the intrinsic load and engaging the germane load. Now, apply this to your day and your sleep. Every single decision you make carries its own intrinsic cognitive load. Choosing a strategic direction for a project is high intrinsic load. Choosing what to eat for lunch is lower, but still present. The problem is that modern life piles on a massive amount of extraneous cognitive load. Constant notifications, open browser tabs, background noise, and interruptions. This is all extraneous load that hijacks your attention and drains your finite mental resources. You're trying to focus on the intrinsic load of your work while your brain is also forced to process 100 other things. By the evening, your cognitive load isn't just high, it's inefficiently allocated. Your brain is exhausted from a day of high intrinsic load from decision-making, compounded by relentless extraneous load from your environment. This leaves very little capacity for the germane load of reflection, consolidation, and calm. The mental clutter you feel is the residue of this inefficient system, a cognitive load that hasn't been properly discharged. Your brain is stuck processing the extraneous noise long after the sources are gone. This is why the practices we're using are so effective. The brown noise reduces auditory extraneous load. The decision audit reduces the intrinsic load of unresolved tasks by providing closure. The breathwork helps regulate the physiological cost of that load. You are systematically optimizing your cognitive load, not by thinking harder, but by consciously stripping away everything that isn't essential for the single task at hand. Resting. You're creating the conditions for optimal cognitive efficiency, but for the purpose of sleep, not work. The goal is to achieve a state of minimal load, where your brain can finally stop processing and start restoring. So as you breathe, view each exhale as a direct tool for reducing cognitive load. You are quite literally exhaling the accumulated mental effort of the day. You're letting go of the intrinsic load of your decisions and flushing out the extraneous load of distractions. With each cycle, you're moving closer to a quiet, empty cognitive space, which is the perfect precondition for deep, restorative sleep to begin its work. This isn't a metaphor, it's a physiological and psychological process of unloading, creating the mental silence necessary for your brain's nightly reset. Neuroplasticity and habit formation. All this talk of cognitive load and decision fatigue points to a powerful solution embedded in your brain's very design: neuroplasticity. This is your brain's lifelong ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections. It's the biological basis for learning and habit formation. Every time you repeat a thought or an action, you strengthen the neural pathway associated with it. With enough repetition, that pathway becomes a superhighway, an automatic behavior that requires very little conscious effort or cognitive load to execute. This is how a habit is born. Think about your morning routine. You probably do a series of actions: brush your teeth, make coffee, get dressed, with almost no active decision making. You're on autopilot. This isn't a sign of a lazy mind. It's a sign of an efficient one. Your brain has successfully outsourced these tasks from the high-energy prefrontal cortex to the more automatic basal ganglia. This process, called automaticity, is a cognitive shortcut that conserves your precious executive resources for the novel and important decisions that truly require them. Habits are your brain's way of saving fuel. This is the direct antidote to decision fatigue. By consciously building habits around repetitive daily choices, you dramatically reduce the cognitive load on your prefrontal cortex. You don't decide what to have for breakfast. You have a standard, healthy option. You don't decide when to start your workday. You have a pre-established ritual. You create structure so your brain doesn't have to rebuild the plan from scratch every single day. Each habit you form is like closing a dozen tiny open loops before they even have a chance to form, preserving your mental energy for the decisions that matter. Sleep plays a crucial role in this process. The synaptic strengthening that turns a conscious action into an automatic habit happens significantly during deep sleep. While you rest, your brain rehearses and consolidates the neural pathways you use during the day. This is why consistency is so important when building a new habit. You're not just practicing while awake, you're giving your brain the raw material it needs to wire in the change during its overnight maintenance cycle. A good night's sleep literally makes your new habit stickier. So, let's reflect gently on your own daily routines. Where in your day do you feel the friction of small, repetitive decisions? The mental sigh when you have to figure out what to wear or what to eat. These are prime opportunities for habit formation. The goal isn't to create a rigid, joyless life, but to strategically automate the mundane to free up creative energy and reduce evening exhaustion. By building consistent patterns, you're not restricting yourself. You're building guardrails that keep your cognitive resources from spilling out on trivialities. You're designing a day that naturally leads to a quieter, more restful mind at night. As you lie here breathing, consider one small, inconsequential decision from your day that could become a simple habit. It doesn't have to be a major life change. It could be as simple as always placing your keys in the same bowl when you get home, or drinking a glass of water first thing in the morning. The act of deciding to not decide in the future is a profound act of cognitive kindness to your future self. It's a gift of mental space that will pay dividends when your head hits the pillow. By embracing the power of neuroplasticity, you move from being a victim of decision fatigue to being an architect of your mental energy, building a life that supports deep, restorative sleep. The default mode. Network. All that mental energy we've been conserving by building habits frees up your brain for a different, equally important mode of operation: the default mode network. Think of your brain's activity like a radio. When you're focused on a task, the prefrontal cortex is the main station you're tuned into. It's loud and clear. But the moment the task ends and your mind begins to wander, the station changes. You switch to the default mode network, or DMN. This is your brain's intrinsic baseline activity, the signal that's always playing in the background when you're not focused on the external world. This network is most active when you're daydreaming, reflecting on your past, imagining your future, or thinking about yourself and others. It's the seat of your internal monologue, your sense of self, and your autobiographical memory. In moderate amounts, this activity is healthy and essential for creativity, self-reflection, and making meaning from your life experiences. It's where you connect the dots between seemingly unrelated events and generate new ideas. A balanced brain smoothly transitions between the task-positive network and this default mode. The problem with decision fatigue is that it creates a severe imbalance. When your prefrontal cortex is completely drained from a day of high-stakes choices and cognitive load, it loses its ability to regulate the default mode network. It's like the station manager has gone home for the night, leaving the default mode station to blast static at full volume, unchecked. This is the neurological source of that racing mind at bedtime. It's not that you're thinking more, you're just hearing the default noise that's usually kept at a respectful volume by your executive control. This hyperactive DMN is why you find yourself rehashing awkward conversations from 5 years ago or constructing elaborate, stressful scenarios about next week's meeting. Your brain, seeking its natural baseline state, has defaulted to its internal channels, but without the prefrontal cortex to guide it toward productive reflection, it often spirals into rumination and worry. This isn't a character flaw. It's a simple neurological power vacuum. The part of your brain that says, "That's not helpful, let's think about something else," is offline. Understanding this changes everything. Your goal for sleep isn't to silence this network completely. That's neither possible nor desirable. The goal is to gently lower its volume from a shout to a whisper and to guide its content from anxious rumination toward neutral or even pleasant meandering. The breathing, the body scan, the brown noise, all of it is designed to provide a gentle alternative anchor for your awareness. You're not trying to fight the default mode, you're giving it a softer, less stimulating channel to broadcast on, allowing the transition into sleep to happen organically and peacefully. Sleep onset process. Now that we've quieted the default mode network, let's explore what should happen next. The beautiful automatic process of sleep onset. This is the transitional period between wakefulness and sleep, a time when your body and brain undergo a series of precise physiological changes. It's not an on-off switch, but a gradual, orchestrated descent. Understanding this process helps you recognize it and, more importantly, stop fighting it when it begins. The first noticeable changes are physical. Your muscles begin to relax progressively, a process controlled by the brainstem. You might experience small, involuntary twitches called hypnic jerks. These are completely normal, thought to be a remnant of our primal past, a final check of the muscular system before paralysis sets in for the night. Your breathing begins to slow and become more regular, and your heart rate follows suit. Your body temperature also starts to drop, reaching its lowest point around 4 or 5 a.m. This cooling is a direct signal from your circadian clock that it's time for restorative functions to begin. Simultaneously, your brain waves begin to shift. The fast, erratic beta waves of active thought and focus gradually give way to the slower, more synchronized alpha waves of relaxed wakefulness. This is the state you're likely in right now, awake but deeply relaxed. As you drift closer to sleep, these alpha waves are replaced by even slower theta waves, which are characteristic of the lightest stage of sleep, N1. This is the threshold. Your conscious awareness of the external world fades, and you may experience dreamlike imagery or sudden, vivid thoughts, another sign of the brain transitioning its operational mode. The entire process is a delicate handoff from the conscious, voluntary nervous system to the automatic, involuntary systems that govern sleep. It's meant to be smooth and effortless, but decision thoughts are like throwing a wrench into these gears. A sudden worry or a remembered task can instantly jolt your brain waves back from alpha or theta to high alert beta. It reactivates the prefrontal cortex and the sympathetic nervous system, raising your heart rate and muscle tension, pulling you right back to square one. You're essentially slamming the brakes on a biological process that was already in motion. This is why the practices of mental filing and breathwork are so crucial. They aren't just about feeling calm, they're about actively maintaining the physiological state required for sleep onset to proceed uninterrupted. The extended exhale encourages the heart rate drop. The body scan ensures muscular relaxation. The decision audit prevents those cognitive spikes that trigger a sympathetic response. You are creating a protected bubble where the natural automatic process of falling asleep can unfold without interference from the conscious mind that has by now done its job for the day. Your role is simply to get out of the way and let your biology take over. Every time you notice a thought and gently release it, you are smoothing the path for this elegant transition. Decision fatigue in history. This feeling of mental exhaustion is not a modern invention. While we face an unprecedented volume of choices, the fundamental challenge of decision fatigue has been recognized for centuries by leaders and thinkers who understood the limits of the human mind. Historical accounts often reveal an intuitive grasp of cognitive limits long before we had the science to explain them. Leaders who bore the weight of monumental choices frequently developed systems to conserve their decision-making energy for what truly mattered. Consider figures like Napoleon or Churchill, who faced decisions with life and death consequences. They didn't rely on sheer willpower alone. They implemented structures to manage their cognitive load. Napoleon was known for his meticulous routines and delegation, preserving his focus for strategic military decisions. Churchill famously adhered to a strict schedule that included an afternoon nap, a practice he credited with allowing him to maintain clarity through the immense pressures of wartime leadership. These weren't signs of laziness. They were sophisticated strategies for preserving a finite resource. They understood intuitively that a tired mind makes poor choices. Ancient philosophies also contain profound wisdom about the necessity of rest. The Stoics, for instance, practiced evening reflection not as a time to worry, but as a way to review the day, learn from it, and then consciously set it aside. Marcus Aurelius wrote about retiring into himself, letting go of the external world's demands to find peace. This is a form of historical decision auditing. The Industrial Revolution, however, marked a shift. The concept of time became more regimented, and the idea of resting during the workday was largely lost, replaced by a push for continuous productivity that ignored our biological rhythms. The real shift into our current state of overload began with the information age. The volume of decisions required of the average person has exploded. Where a farmer might have made a dozen significant choices in a day, we now make dozens before lunch. From navigating complex digital interfaces to processing a constant stream of news and social information. The pace has accelerated, but our underlying hardware, the human brain, has not. We are using a biological system designed for a different world, and the strain is the decision fatigue we feel each evening. So when you lie here feeling overwhelmed by the mental residue of your day, know that you are confronting a challenge that has echoes throughout history. The difference is that we now have the science to understand it not as a personal failing, but as a biological reality. The solution isn't to wish for a simpler time, but to apply modern understanding to an ancient problem. By learning from both history and neuroscience, we can build personal systems, like the routines and mental clears we're practicing, that respect our cognitive limits. This gentle reflection on the past can help release the pressure of the present, connecting your experience to a long human story of seeking balance between action and rest. Micro-sleep moments. When the weight of those accumulated decisions becomes too great, your brain has a built-in last resort safety mechanism. Micro-sleep. These are brief, unintended episodes of sleep that last anywhere from a fraction of a second up to 30 seconds. During a microsleep, your brain essentially shuts down processing from the external world and dips into a sleep state, even if your eyes are open. You might experience it as a sudden lapse in attention, a nod of the head, or a moment where you realize you've missed what someone just said. These episodes are a clear signal from your brain that its energy reserves are critically depleted. They are most common when you're sleep-deprived or performing long, monotonous tasks, like driving on a highway or sitting through a lengthy meeting after a draining day. The brain, overwhelmed by the cognitive load and adenosine buildup, forces a hard reset. It's a protective, if disconcerting, function. Your brain is prioritizing its own essential maintenance over the task at hand. Recognizing the continued operation in its current state is unsustainable. While microsleep can be dangerous in situations like driving, in the safety of your bed, it's a sign to be welcomed, not fought. It indicates that your body is ready for sleep and is beginning the process of shutting down. Fighting these moments, jolting yourself awake, only prolongs the struggle. Instead, you can learn to recognize them as cues to surrender. That feeling of drifting off for a second and then catching yourself is the threshold we've been working toward. It's the edge of sleep onset. Rather than seeing them as interruptions, you can reframe these micro-sleep moments as opportunities. They are your brain's way of offering you a taste of the rest it desperately needs. When you feel one approaching, don't resist. Lean into it. Allow your awareness to soften and your body to relax even further. See if you can extend that fleeting moment of silence, that gap in conscious thought. Each microsleep is a tiny down payment on the deeper sleep to come, a brief but total release from the effort of thinking and deciding. So as you continue to breathe and relax, be on the lookout for these subtle cues. A sudden wave of heaviness in your eyelids, a thought that dissolves mid-sentence, a feeling of drifting. These are not enemies to your goal of mindful relaxation. They are its ultimate expression. They are the biological proof that your efforts to reduce cognitive load are working. Your brain is feeling safe enough, quiet enough to begin its descent. Embrace these mini-rest opportunities as nature's gentle tug, pulling you away from the fatigue of the day and toward the deep, restorative silence of sleep. Let each one be a permission slip to stop trying and start resting fully and completely. The parasympathetic shift. All that effort to embrace micro-sleep moments is about triggering a fundamental biological switch, the shift from your sympathetic nervous system to your parasympathetic nervous system. Think of these as two sides of your autonomic nervous system. The sympathetic side is your accelerator. It's fight or flight, the state of high alert you're in when making decisions, meeting deadlines, or dealing with stress. It increases your heart rate, blood pressure, and respiratory rate, priming you for action. The parasympathetic side is your brake. It's often called the rest and digest system. It slows your heart rate, lowers your blood pressure, and promotes digestion and restoration. It is the physiological state of calm and safety. Decision-making is a profoundly sympathetic activity. Every choice, from the trivial to the critical, requires a slight activation of that focused, alert state. After a full day of it, your nervous system is essentially stuck in a low-grade version of fight or flight. Your body is physically primed for action even though you're lying in bed, which is why you can feel both mentally exhausted and physically wired. The racing thoughts and inability to sleep are not just in your mind. They are the neurological and physiological symptoms of a system that hasn't yet received the all-clear signal to power down. The gateway to the parasympathetic state is largely controlled by the vagus nerve, the longest cranial nerve in your body. It's like a major information highway running from your brainstem to your heart, lungs, and digestive organs. When activated, it sends signals that slow everything down. The most direct way to stimulate your vagus nerve and initiate this shift is through your breath. A long, slow exhale is a powerful physiological signal of safety. It triggers a baroreceptor reflex that tells your brain the coast is clear, that the threat is gone, and it's safe to engage the parasympathetic system. This is why heart rate variability, the variation in time between your heartbeats, is a key marker of resilience and recovery. High HRV indicates a healthy, responsive nervous system that can switch efficiently between sympathetic arousal and parasympathetic calm. Low HRV, often seen in states of chronic stress and fatigue, indicates a system stuck in a stressed state. The practices we're doing, the extended exhales, the body scan, the mental release, are all designed to manually stimulate the vagus nerve and increase HRV, guiding your nervous system out of its state of alertness and into its state of restoration. So as you breathe, understand that you're not just counting breaths. You are manually operating the controls of your own nervous system. Each long, slow exhale is a direct command to your brainstem to activate the vagus nerve, to lower your heart rate, and to begin the parasympathetic shift. You are convincing your body that the day of decision-making is truly over, that there are no more threats to manage, and that it is finally completely safe to rest. This biological shift is the foundation upon which all deep restorative sleep is built. Nutrition and cognitive function. That parasympathetic shift is fueled by the most basic resource, energy. Your brain, while only about 2% of your body weight, consumes roughly 20% of your body's energy, primarily in the form of glucose. Decision-making is one of the most energy-intensive cognitive processes. Each choice you make, no matter how small, requires your prefrontal cortex to activate, weigh options, and inhibit impulses, all of which burn through glucose. This is why you can feel genuinely drained after a long day of meetings or complex problem solving. You've literally depleted your brain's primary fuel source. This creates a direct link between nutrition, cognitive function, and the decision fatigue you feel at night. When blood sugar levels dip after a period of high mental exertion, your brain's energy supply becomes unstable. This can manifest as brain fog, irritability, and a significant drop in willpower, the very state of ego depletion we discussed earlier. Your brain, running on low fuel, finds it harder to regulate emotions and suppress distracting thoughts, which is why worries often feel magnified when you're tired and hungry. The mental clutter isn't just psychological, it has a metabolic component. Hydration plays an equally critical role. Even mild dehydration can impair cognitive performance, attention, and mood. Water is essential for the efficient function of every cell in your body, including your neurons. The metabolic processes that generate energy and clear waste products like adenosine require adequate hydration to run smoothly. When you're dehydrated, these systems become sluggish, amplifying feelings of fatigue and mental sluggishness. It's a simple but often overlooked factor that directly impacts the weight of your cognitive load. Sleep is the ultimate metabolic restoration. During deep sleep, your brain's glymphatic system, its waste clearance system, kicks into high gear, flushing out the metabolic byproducts that accumulate during waking hours, including the adenosine that creates sleep pressure. This nightly cleanse is essential for waking up with a refreshed, well-fueled brain. But this process requires energy and resources itself. If your body is metabolically stressed from poor nutrition or dehydration, the quality of this restorative sleep can be compromised, creating a vicious cycle where you wake up already behind on cognitive resources. So as you breathe, bring a gentle, non-judgmental awareness to your body's state of nourishment. Are you adequately hydrated? Did you fuel your brain consistently today? This isn't about critique, but about connecting the physical to the mental. The decision fatigue you're releasing isn't an abstract concept. It's the physiological residue of a day spent powering a high-performance organ. By prioritizing both the fuel you give it and the rest it requires, you create the conditions for a quieter mind and a deeper, more truly restorative sleep. Each breath supports this metabolic shift from depletion to replenishment. Digital detox science. That metabolic restoration we just touched on is constantly being undermined by one of the biggest sources of extraneous cognitive load in modern life, our digital devices. The science behind a pre-sleep digital detox is more than just a wellness tip. It's a direct intervention in your brain's neurochemistry. The most immediate impact comes from the blue light emitted by screens. Your retina contains special light-sensitive cells called intrinsically photosensitive retinal ganglion cells. These cells don't help you see. Their sole job is to detect blue light wavelengths and send a direct signal to your suprachiasmatic nucleus, your master clock, telling it that it's daytime. When you look at a phone or laptop in the evening, you are essentially shining a digital sun into your eyes, tricking your brain into suppressing melatonin production. This single action can delay your natural sleep onset by an hour or more, throwing your entire circadian rhythm out of sync. But the light is only part of the problem. The content itself is a constant source of micro-decisions and cognitive load. Every notification, every email, every social media scroll presents a choice to engage or ignore. This perpetual state of low-grade alertness keeps your sympathetic nervous system activated, directly opposing the parasympathetic shift we're trying to achieve. The cognitive cost of task switching is immense. Each time you shift your attention from this relaxing narration to a notification and back again, you incur a switch cost. Your brain has to disengage from one context, load a new one, and then reload the original context. This fragmented attention creates a residue of unfinished cognitive tasks, feeding the Zeigarnik effect and adding to the mental clutter you're trying to clear. Your brain never gets a continuous, uninterrupted stretch to wind down. It's like trying to cool a room while repeatedly opening the door to a furnace. Establishing a digital boundary an hour before bed is one of the most effective ways to reduce decision fatigue. It's a single, proactive decision that eliminates hundreds of reactive micro-decisions. By turning off notifications or putting devices in another room, you are not being antisocial. You are performing a vital act of cognitive hygiene. You are creating a protected space where your brain can transition from its daytime mode of reactive engagement to its nighttime mode of quiet integration. This allows the default mode network to quieten naturally rather than being constantly interrupted and sent back into a state of high alert. So as you breathe here in this device-free space, feel the difference. There are no pings, no buzzes, no demands for your attention. The only decision you need to make is to continue breathing and listening. This is the mental equivalent of stepping out of a noisy, crowded street into a quiet, peaceful room. You are giving your prefrontal cortex the signal that its work is truly done for the day. The constant drip feed of information is stopped, and in that silence, your brain can finally begin the real work of consolidation and restoration. This digital detox isn't a punishment. It's a gift of uninterrupted time that your mind needs to prepare for deep, healing sleep. Sleep spindle facts. As your mind settles into this digital quiet, your brain begins to produce one of the most fascinating signatures of stable sleep. Sleep spindles. These are brief bursts of rhythmic brain activity, typically lasting 1 to 2 seconds, that appear on an EEG as a distinctive spindle-shaped wave. They are generated by the thalamus, your brain's sensory gateway, and their primary function is to act as a barrier, protecting the fragile process of sleep from being disrupted by external stimuli. When a sleep spindle occurs, it essentially tells the rest of the brain, ignore that sound, it's not important. This allows your sleep to remain deep and uninterrupted, even if there's minor noise in your environment. But their role goes far beyond just being a do not disturb sign. Sleep spindles are critically involved in memory consolidation. During these bursts of activity, the brain is actively transferring information from the short-term storage of the hippocampus to the long-term storage of the cortex. It's a filing process, where the day's experiences and learnings are integrated into your existing knowledge base. This is why sleep after learning is so essential. The spindles help cement the new information, making it more resistant to being forgotten. They are a key part of the cognitive restoration that happens overnight. The presence and quantity of sleep spindles are a marker of sleep quality and even cognitive health. A brain that is able to generate robust spindle activity is a brain that is efficiently managing its overnight maintenance. However, this process is easily disrupted. The very decision thoughts we've been working to clear are like internal noise that can interfere with spindle generation. A mind that is still actively processing the day's choices creates a kind of internal static that can prevent the thalamus from effectively doing its job of protecting your sleep. The mental chatter keeps the brain in a state of semi-alertness, incompatible with the deep synchronized waves needed for optimal spindle production. This is the final neurological argument for the mind-clearing practice. By consciously filing away your decisions and quieting the internal monologue, you are not just creating a feeling of calm. You are directly enabling your brain's physical machinery to perform its essential restorative functions. You are clearing the internal static so the sleep spindles can fire cleanly and frequently, ensuring your sleep is both stable and effective at consolidating memories and clearing mental clutter. Each unresolved worry you release is one less piece of interference for this delicate process. So as you lie here in the growing stillness, imagine your brain beginning to produce these gentle rhythmic spindles. Visualize them as soft, protective waves washing over your consciousness, smoothing out the rough edges of the day and locking in what you've learned. Your role is simply to maintain the quiet mental environment that allows this natural healing rhythm to emerge. You've done the work of clearing the stage. Now, you can let your brain's innate intelligence take over, weaving the experiences of the day into the fabric of your long-term self, all while keeping you safely insulated in deep, restorative sleep. This is the silent, powerful work that happens when you finally grant your mind permission to truly rest. Mindful decision release. Now that we understand how sleep spindles protect and consolidate, let's apply a final, practical technique to clear the stage completely. Mindful decision release. This is an active process of visualizing and letting go of the remaining mental residue. It's not about solving problems, but about acknowledging them and consciously setting them aside for the night. Your brain needs a clear signal that it's permissible to stop working. Begin by visualizing a simple mental filing system. Picture a calm, organized space, perhaps a library with empty shelves or a clean desk with a single in tray. One by one, bring to mind the decisions, worries, or open loops that are still faintly buzzing in the background. As you identify each one, visualize yourself writing it down on a slip of paper and placing it gently into the tray or onto a shelf. The act is symbolic, but powerful. You are not deleting the task, you are acknowledging it and giving it a designated place to reside until morning. You are closing the cognitive tab. The key to this practice is the release. As you place each item down, pair it with a slow, deliberate exhale. On the inhale, you acknowledge the thought. On the exhale, you release your mental grip on it. You are breathing out the sense of urgency and responsibility. The thought may pop up again. That's natural. When it does, simply acknowledge it without judgment and visualize placing it back in its designated spot. You are training your brain to trust that these items are safe and will be there tomorrow, that they do not require constant, vigilant monitoring throughout the night. This practice directly counters the hypervigilance of a fatigued prefrontal cortex. By repeatedly performing this gentle act of filing and releasing, you are sending a consistent message to your executive control centers. Stand down. I have a system for this. Your work is done. This allows the default mode network to quieten from a state of anxious rumination to one of neutral observation. The mental clutter transforms from a chaotic pile of urgent demands into an orderly queue, waiting patiently for the return of daylight and fresh cognitive resources. So, let's try it now. Bring to mind one small, inconsequential decision from your day. It doesn't have to be a major stressor. It could be something as simple as an email you need to send tomorrow, or an item you need to add to your shopping list. Visualize it clearly. Now, as you inhale, simply notice it. As you exhale slowly, visualize writing it down and placing it gently into your mental filing system. Feel the slight release of tension, the subtle shift of cognitive load from your conscious mind to the trusted system you've created. This is the final act of cognitive kindness for your tired brain, creating the empty space necessary for deep, spindle-rich sleep to take over. The science of yawning. You might find yourself yawning during this deep relaxation, and that's a perfect natural sign that the process is working. Yawning is one of the most common, yet least understood human behaviors. While we often associate it with boredom or tiredness, its primary function appears to be thermoregulation for the brain. The brain cooling theory suggests that a deep yawn acts like a radiator, drawing in a rush of cool air that helps lower the temperature of the brain, which has been working hard all day. A cooler brain is more efficient and is a physiological prerequisite for optimal sleep onset. So if you feel a yawn coming on, embrace it. It's your body's way of actively preparing for rest. Yawning is also highly contagious, a phenomenon linked to our brain's mirror neuron system, which is involved in empathy and social bonding. When you see someone else yawn, your brain unconsciously mimics the action. This social component hints at its deep evolutionary roots as a communal signal for shifting states, perhaps indicating to a group that it's time to wind down and rest. In the context of this video, hearing about yawning might trigger one, and that's a good thing. It's a sign that your brain is syncing with the intention of relaxation, moving from a state of individual focus to a collective, restful state. Furthermore, yawning increases heart rate slightly and flexes various muscles in the face and neck, which subsequently leads to a deeper state of relaxation once the yawn is complete. It's like a mini reset for your autonomic nervous system. It also increases alertness for a brief moment, which might seem counterintuitive for sleep. However, this brief spike can help if you're hovering in a drowsy, semi-aware state, allowing you to reposition yourself more comfortably before surrendering completely to sleep. It's a final, gentle nudge toward conscious relaxation before the automatic processes take over. So don't suppress any urges to yawn. See them as your body's innate wisdom taking over. Each yawn is a physiological signal that your brain is cooling down, your body is shifting states, and you are moving closer to the threshold of sleep. It's a natural, involuntary cue that you are on the right path. Allow yourself to yawn fully and freely, noticing the stretch in your jaw and the deep intake of breath. It's a biological confirmation that the mental clearing and physical relaxation are having their intended effect, guiding you steadily toward the deep, restorative silence your mind and body have been craving all day. Temperature regulation. That natural cooling from a deep yawn is part of a much larger, deliberate process your body undergoes every night. Thermoregulation for sleep. Your core body temperature isn't constant. It follows a distinct circadian rhythm, peaking in the late afternoon and hitting its lowest point around 4 or 5 a.m. The process of falling asleep is intimately tied to a drop of just 1 to 2 degrees Fahrenheit. This isn't a passive side effect, it's an active signal. Your brain interprets this cooling as a primary cue that it's time to initiate the complex cascade of sleep hormones and neural changes. Your bedroom environment plays a crucial role in facilitating this natural drop. A cool room, typically between 60 and 67 degrees Fahrenheit, supports your body's efforts rather than fighting against them. A warm room forces your body to expend energy on thermoregulation, sweating and diverting blood flow to the skin to cool down, which can disrupt the quiet parasympathetic state we're cultivating. This is why a hot bath before bed can actually be helpful. It brings blood to the surface of your skin, and when you get out, the rapid evaporation causes a precipitous temperature drop that mimics and accelerates the natural circadian signal for sleep. You can think of the heat of decision fatigue in a similar way. The metabolic burn of a day spent making choices creates a kind of cognitive warmth, a lingering activation that keeps your mind buzzing. The practices of mental filing and breathwork are the psychological equivalent of turning down the thermostat. Each long exhale, each visualized release is like venting that built-up mental heat, allowing your cognitive core to cool to its optimal resting temperature. A quiet, calm mind is a cooler mind, one that is primed for the deep, restorative work of the night. You can enhance this cooling process with a simple breathing technique. It's often called the 4-7-8 method, but the principle is the extended exhale. Inhale gently through your nose for a count of 4, then exhale slowly through your mouth for a count of 7 or 8. This prolonged exhalation doesn't just stimulate the vagus nerve, it also promotes heat loss from the respiratory tract, providing a direct, gentle assist to your body's natural cooling process. It's a tangible way to partner with your biology, using your breath to signal safety and encourage the physiological shift into sleep. Sleep and immune function. As your cognitive temperature drops and your mind settles into a quieter state, your body begins one of its most critical nighttime tasks: immune system restoration. This isn't a secondary benefit of sleep, it's a core function. While you rest, your immune system shifts into high gear. Specialized cells called cytokines are produced and released during deep sleep. Some cytokines promote sleep itself, creating a positive feedback loop, while others directly combat infection and inflammation. Think of inflammation as your body's alarm system, a necessary response to injury or illness, but one that, when chronically activated by stress and fatigue, becomes damaging. Deep sleep is the time when that alarm is silenced and the repair crews are sent in. This process has a direct, two-way relationship with the decision fatigue we've been discussing. When you're mentally exhausted, your body experiences it as a form of chronic low-grade stress. This stress activates the sympathetic nervous system, which in turn triggers the release of pro-inflammatory cytokines. Essentially, a tired brain tells the body it's under threat, keeping the immune system in a state of unnecessary alert. This inflammatory state not only makes you more susceptible to getting sick, but also directly interferes with the quality of your sleep. It's a vicious cycle. Fatigue increases inflammation, and inflammation disrupts the deep sleep needed to reduce it. So as you drift closer to sleep, consider giving your brain one last, gentle instruction. You might silently say, "I've done what I can for today. Whatever remains, I trust you to process it in your own way." This act of surrender is the final step in releasing the day's cognitive load. You are transitioning from the active, controlling mode of the prefrontal cortex to the receptive, integrative mode of the dreaming brain. You are allowing the sophisticated automatic systems of your mind to take over, trusting that they will sift through the experiences of the day, consolidate what's important, and let go of the rest, leaving you refreshed and ready for a new dawn. Gentle body scan. Let's move from the abstract science of dreaming to a very concrete physical practice. A gentle body scan. This technique brings your awareness systematically through your body, not to fix anything, but simply to notice and release the physical tension that so often accompanies mental fatigue. Where the mind goes, the body follows, and a day of high-stakes decisions leaves its imprint in tightened shoulders, a clenched jaw, or a tense stomach. This scan is your tool to consciously unwind that physical residue. Start by bringing your awareness to the very top of your head. Notice any sensation there, perhaps a slight tingling, warmth, or simply the feeling of your head resting on the pillow. There's no need to change it, just observe. Now slowly guide your attention down to your forehead. Feel the skin across your brow. If you notice any furrowing or tightness, imagine your breath flowing to that spot on your exhale, gently softening the space between your eyebrows. Let that softening feeling spread to your eyelids, your cheeks, and your jaw. Allow your jaw to hang loose, your teeth not touching, releasing the need to hold anything together. Continue this journey downward into your neck and shoulders. This is a common storage unit for the weight of the day's responsibilities. See if you can consciously let that weight go, feeling your shoulders drop away from your ears, supported completely by the bed beneath you. Move your awareness down your arms, into your elbows, wrists, and hands. Notice any subtle energy or tingling in your fingertips. Then bring your focus to your chest and stomach. Feel the gentle rise and fall with each breath, a sign that your body is already in its parasympathetic rhythm. Release any guarding or bracing in your core. Finally, guide your attention down through your hips, thighs, knees, calves, and all the way to the soles of your feet. Feel the contact points with the sheets, the heaviness of your legs fully surrendering to gravity. From the crown of your head to the tips of your toes, your entire body is now in a state of observed conscious release. The physical act of letting go sends a powerful feedback signal to your brain that the work is over, that the vigilance can cease. This deep physical relaxation is the final anchor that keeps your mind from drifting back into the whirlwind of the day, grounding you firmly in the present, quiet moment. The power of routine. This state of deep physical and mental release we've just achieved isn't something you have to create from scratch every single night. You can build a neurological shortcut to get here, and it's called a routine. Your brain thrives on predictability. A consistent pre-sleep routine acts as a powerful cue, signaling to your entire nervous system that the transition from wakefulness to sleep is beginning. This process, known as circadian entrainment, trains your brain to anticipate sleep, making the shift faster, smoother, and more automatic each time you perform the ritual. The power lies in reducing decision load. When your evening is a series of choices, what to do, what to watch, when to go to bed, you are constantly engaging your prefrontal cortex, keeping it active and alert, right up until the moment you hope it will shut off. A routine eliminates those micro decisions. You're not deciding to do a body scan. It's just what you do after you brush your teeth. You're not deciding to turn off your phone. It's just part of the sequence. This automated pattern bypasses the executive control centers that are exhausted from the day, allowing them to power down gracefully. The science behind this is rooted in the habit loop: cue, routine, reward. The cue could be a time, 10 p.m., an action, putting on pajamas, or an environment, a dimly lit room. The routine is the series of relaxing behaviors you perform, like this body scan or mindful breathing. The reward is the feeling of deep relaxation and the eventual payoff of falling asleep easily. Each time you complete this loop, you strengthen the neural pathways that associate these calming activities with sleep onset, making the process more efficient and effective. You are essentially building a dedicated neural highway directly to rest. Your routine doesn't need to be long or complex. It just needs to be consistent. It might involve dimming the lights an hour before bed, reading a physical book for 20 minutes, spending 5 minutes on a mindful release practice, and then lights out. The key is that it's a wind-down process, not a stimulating one. By repeating this sequence night after night, you are programming your brain's master clock. You are telling your biology, this is what we do to prepare for sleep. And your body will respond by preemptively lowering cortisol, increasing melatonin, and shifting into the parasympathetic state you desire. So as you lie here in this deeply relaxed state, consider what small, consistent cues you can introduce to signal this transition each night. The goal is to make relaxation a default setting, not a nightly struggle. By investing a little consistency up front, you create a cumulative effect that pays massive dividends in reduced decision fatigue and improved sleep quality. You are building a sanctuary of habit around your sleep, a predictable, peaceful ritual that tells your tired brain and body in no uncertain terms that it is finally, completely safe to rest. Sleep and emotional regulation. All that effort to build a peaceful routine and clear your mind serves a deeper purpose: emotional restoration. The connection between sleep and emotional regulation is among the most critical functions of rest. Your amygdala, the brain's threat detection center, becomes hyperreactive when you're sleep deprived or mentally fatigued. It's like a hypersensitive alarm system that interprets minor setbacks as major threats. A tired brain, running on depleted resources, loses its ability to apply the brakes to this emotional response, which is why everything can feel overwhelming at the end of a long day. This emotional volatility is a direct cost of decision fatigue. Every choice you make, especially those involving willpower or social interaction, draws on the same prefrontal resources needed to regulate your emotions. As that cognitive fuel tank runs low, your ability to respond calmly and rationally diminishes. You become more prone to irritation, anxiety, and impulsive reactions. The mental residue you feel isn't just a list of tasks, it's the emotional weight of navigating a complex social and professional world without a full toolkit. Sleep performs an essential reset on this system. During the REM sleep we just discussed, your brain actively processes the emotional experiences of the day. It replays events in a neurochemical environment that is low in stress hormones like norepinephrine, allowing the emotional charge to be stripped away from the memory. This is why a problem that feels insurmountable at night can often feel manageable in the morning. Your brain hasn't solved it for you, but it has detoxified the intense emotions attached to it, giving you a clearer, calmer perspective from which to approach it. So the act of releasing your decisions before bed is fundamentally an act of emotional hygiene. You are consciously setting down the emotional burdens you've been carrying. Each item you mentally file away is not just a task, it's a potential source of frustration, anxiety, or disappointment that you are choosing to temporarily release. This practice gives your amygdala the signal that the all clear has been sounded. The threats, real or perceived, are being handled, allowing this key emotional center to stand down from its heightened state of alert. As you breathe here in the stillness, bring a gentle awareness to your emotional state without judgment. Are you holding on to any lingering frustration or worry from the day? You don't need to analyze it or solve it. Simply acknowledge its presence, and on your next exhale, visualize breathing out that emotional weight. Feel the subtle shift as your nervous system accepts that the work of emotional management is complete for today. You are creating the internal quiet necessary for your brain to perform its overnight emotional reset, ensuring you wake up not just cognitively refreshed, but emotionally resilient and ready to face a new day with calm and clarity. The restorative power of naps. That emotional reset we just explored isn't confined to a full night's sleep. Sometimes the weight of the day's decisions calls for an earlier intervention, the strategic nap. When understood and used correctly, a nap is not a sign of laziness, but a powerful tool for cognitive and emotional maintenance. The key is timing. A short nap of 10 to 20 minutes, often called a power nap, is ideal for a quick boost in alertness and mood without leaving you with sleep inertia, that groggy, disoriented feeling. This brief dip into light sleep provides just enough time to clear a little adenosine from your system, giving your prefrontal cortex a momentary respite and a chance to reset its depleted resources. For a more comprehensive refresh that includes memory consolidation, A longer nap of about 90 minutes allows you to complete a full sleep cycle, including both slow-wave sleep and REM. This is where you get the emotional regulation benefits we discussed, as your brain has time to process and integrate information. However, this comes with a higher risk of sleep inertia, and if taken too late in the day, can interfere with your nighttime sleep drive. The sweet spot for most people is early to mid-afternoon, aligning with the natural dip in your circadian rhythm that occurs around 2 or 3 p.m. This is when your body is already primed for a rest period. Think of a nap as a targeted defragmentation for a mentally fatigued brain. The constant decision-making of the morning can leave your cognitive processes fragmented, like a hard drive with files scattered everywhere. A short nap acts as a quick system reboot, closing unnecessary tabs and clearing the working memory. It provides a moment of pure mental silence, a deliberate pause in the constant stream of micro-choices. By voluntarily stepping away and granting your brain this brief period of offline processing, you are making a single, proactive decision that can prevent the downward spiral of ego depletion later in the day. So if you feel that midday slump coming on, don't fight it with caffeine alone. If your schedule allows, give yourself permission for a brief, intentional rest. You don't even need to fall fully asleep. Simply lying down in a quiet, dark space and practicing the breathing or body scan techniques we've covered can provide a significant restorative effect. You are signaling to your nervous system that it's okay to shift out of go mode, even for just 15 minutes. This isn't lost time. It's an investment that pays dividends in renewed focus, stabilized emotions, and a reduced cognitive load for the remainder of your day, making your eventual transition into nighttime sleep that much smoother. Sleep tracking facts. In our quest for perfect sleep, many of us turn to technology, using wearables and apps to track every minute of rest. While the intention is good, the science suggests this hypervigilance can backfire, creating a new source of performance anxiety and decision fatigue right at the bedroom door. These devices measure proxies for sleep, movement, and heart rate variability, not sleep itself. They make educated guesses, but they can be fooled by lying still while awake or miss periods of quiet wakefulness that are a normal part of the night. Placing absolute trust in a score generated by an algorithm can create a distorted relationship with your own subjective experience of rest. This can lead to what's sometimes called orthosomnia, an unhealthy preoccupation with achieving perfect sleep data. You might find yourself checking your sleep score first thing in the morning, letting a number dictate your mood for the day. A poor score can become a self-fulfilling prophecy, triggering stress about being tired, which then makes it harder to sleep well the following night. This creates a cycle of anxiety centered around a metric that may not even be accurately capturing your reality. You're adding a nightly task, interpreting data, and a potential source of worry to a process that should be about surrender and trust. The most accurate measure of sleep quality isn't on your wrist. It's how you feel during the day. Do you have sustainable energy? Are you able to focus? Is your mood generally stable? These are the true metrics of restorative rest. Constantly analyzing your sleep data adds another layer of extraneous cognitive load, forcing you to make decisions about what the data means and what you should do to fix it. It turns the natural, involuntary process of sleep into a performance to be optimized, which is the exact opposite of the mental release we're striving for. The healthiest approach is to use this technology lightly, if at all. See it as a general trend spotter over weeks or months, not a nightly report card. Better yet, consider a digital detox from sleep tracking for a while. Relearn to trust your body's innate signals, the feeling of heavy eyelids, the natural urge to yawn and stretch, the sense of refreshment upon waking. By releasing the need to quantify your sleep, you are eliminating a significant source of pre-sleep mental chatter. You are choosing to believe in your body's ancient wisdom over a device's imperfect algorithm, reducing decision fatigue and performance pressure to simply let go and allow sleep to happen in its own natural rhythm. The neuroscience of boredom. Boredom activates your brain's default mode network, the same state we quiet for sleep. This mental space isn't empty, it's where creativity incubates and decision fatigue recovers. Embrace this quiet. It's your brain's natural reset. Final mind-clearing sequence. Release all remaining thoughts. Your mental inventory is complete. Breathe deeply, surrendering to the quiet. Trust your mind to rest now. You are prepared for deep, restorative sleep. Conclusion. Key takeaway and CTA. So you now understand the science behind mental restoration. Decision fatigue is not a personal failing. It's a biological challenge you can solve with these brain-based techniques. Make this nightly clearing a practice to reclaim your sleep and your focus. For more science-backed methods to master your mind, subscribe to MindScape X. Now let your breath get slower and let your mind finally drift into deep, restorative sleep.